What's up everyone, it's Dakota and welcome back to another Pioneer video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Niv-Mizzet deck for the Pioneer format, a deck that goes way over the top of everything else in the Pioneer metagame currently and is just overall kind of a hard deck to play against and honestly a hard deck to kind of place in the meta with kind of the speed slash like the grindiness of some of the other decks in the format as well. And Niv-Mizzet's just kind of in a weird place, but does kind of attack the metagame in a pretty favorable way. But of course, before we get too deep into the deck itself and we talk about Niv-Mizzet today, if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to see more videos like this, I post a lot of modern, Pioneer, and longer form content. So if any of that interests you, please consider subscribing to the channel and ring the notification bell so you know when those videos get posted. And if you want to support my content even further, you can become a channel member today and get some pretty cool exclusive perks to go along with that. And of course, like all of that currently is going to supporting the channel and just supporting me and continuing to kind of grow the community we're trying to build here. So if any of that stuff interests you, any little bit helps, and I would really greatly appreciate it. So Niv-Mizzet is this kind of interesting deck, like back in Pioneer's, beginning stages and everything, where we were going through weekly bannings and trying to figure out, like, okay, what can exist, what can't. We've had this card, Niv-Mizzet Reborn, that has kind of been its own deck and has, been pretty good. I would say obviously better at times than others. At one point I would say it was probably like a top 3 deck in the format. And I think right now it's a pretty good, off meta pick to kind of tackle, some of the top decks in this format. So Niv-Mizzet Reborn is a 1 of each color for a flying 6/6 dragon avatar, legendary creature. And when it enters the battlefield, you reveal the top 10 cards of your library for each color pair. So you're thinking of like the guilds, you're like Orzhov, Boros, looking at like Rakdos, Dimir, things like that. So for each of those for each color pair, choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them. Put the chosen cards into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So essentially with Niv-Mizzet, the best case scenario, you reveal 10 cards, you draw 10 cards. And you're not even technically drawing them, so you're not even going to trigger like Shieldred or anything like that with this. But the idea is that you get some card advantage. You're like playing these spells to kind of get to this middle game where you're able to cast a Mizzet or cast one of your other spells, which we'll get to here in a second. And then you're going to play this and you're going to get some card advantage by hopefully getting to draw about 3 or 4 cards off of a Niv-Mizzet Reborn. And of course, having a 6/6 to boot as well. It's going to be bigger than a lot of the things on the battlefield. Pairing this now is down to 2 copies. It used to just be like I believe just 4, and then kind of like slowly went down to 3. I would say like begrudgingly, and now we're just at 2. Like this isn't nearly as integral a part of the deck as like the other part of it. You have Niv-Mizzet Supreme, which was from the March of the Machines like Aftermath set that came out shortly after March of the Machines. And same thing, 1 of each color for a 5/5 flying hexproof from monocolored, which is pretty neat, I think, in a format where we see a lot of, like red base removal from the, Is It Phoenix deck. You see a lot of black base removal from the Rakdos deck, things like that. So pretty effective against like the top 2 metagame decks in the format currently. And it's a 5/5 flying hexproof from monocolored. Instant sorcery cards in your graveyard that are exactly 2 colors have Jumpstart, which again, we've expertly crafted our deck around, 2 color things, except for, Niv-Mizzet Reborn and Niv-Mizzet Supreme are not 2 color cards. Some of these other cards as well, but that's beside the point. So essentially with these, like you put these in play, Niv-Mizzet's going to allow you to cast these multicolored spells, even something like, I believe, instants and sorceries. Yeah, so a lot of these spells with Jumpstart, meaning that you can discard a card in addition to paying other costs, and then you exile it. So what exactly are we getting? So in the creature spot, we have Klothys, which is essentially a enchantment creature god. It's indestructible, and your devotion is less than 7, 2 green and red. It isn't a creature. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you exile a card from a graveyard. If it's a land, you add a red or green mana. Otherwise, you gain 2 life, and it deals 2 damage to each opponent. So this is kind of a way that you can, have a little bit of graveyard hate in the main deck, and then also kind of go after your opponent's life total, maybe ramp a little bit to try and get into a Niv-Mizzet Reborn or a Niv-Mizzet Supreme. You have the Wandering Mind, When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them. Put to your hand, the rest on the bottom in a random order. 2/1 flyer isn't like super exciting, but it does kind of trade up with like Arc-like Phoenixes and can find you against some of these like other spells, something like Nahiri, Lightning Helix, so on. Even like some of your like monocolored cards, like Up the Beanstalk, Fable the Mirrorbreaker, Leyline Binding, which is kind of almost stock, I would say, to play 4 Up the Beanstalk in a deck that is kind of playing a lot of these like higher mana costed cards. We go even further, you start getting into the spells. Nahiri the Harbinger is kind of a new card. Like, this is a way that you can end up searching for an artifact or creature, put it on the battlefield, gains haste, and it gets returned to your hand at the beginning of the next end step, so you can go get a Niv-Mizzet Reborn or a Niv-Mizzet Supreme. Whatever works in the situation, you can even get an Omnath Locus of Creation and get the draw card right off of that creature, and then potentially play multiple lands to then end up getting to add mana, gain life, and so on. Also, you're able to actually support casting these cards, so your mana base will allow you to kind of like get a Niv-Mizzet Reborn off of a Nahiri Ultimate, get your cards, you're going to return it to your hand after dealing them 6 damage, and then you're going to be able to cast on the next turn and draw even more cards and be set up for the future of the game. So pretty interesting addition to the deck. The spells, we have like Lightning Helix is like a way that's going to help you get to like the the mid to late game, just getting to kind of get the tempo of like killing a creature and then gaining a couple life as well to kind of offset some of the damage that you've already taken, or even some of the damage that is going to be like in that combat step. Molten Collapse is just like Dreadbore, but it gives you a little bit upside, destroying a non-creature, non-land permanent with a non-creature, non-land permanent with a mana value 1 or less, so you can kind of attack some of these other small little aggressive decks. I would say particularly good against something like a Boros Aggro by getting to kill their 2-drop, and then also getting to, I guess even kill like their, what is it? I always forget, Chain to the Rocks, that's what it is. Chain to the Rocks, even like Portable Hole as well. Maybe not very easily able to descend with Molten Collapse, but there is some worlds where like you can kind of get a 2-for-1 from this. It just has that upside to it. Vanishing Verse, exile target monocolored permanent in Orzhov colors, which is pretty nice considering that you can just straight up get rid of Phoenixes with this card. You can get rid of like Ledger Shredders, as well as something like a Vein Ripper. You can get rid of really all of like the important vampires and creatures in like the Rakdos deck. So just another like very efficient, good removal spell that is going to kind of stop them from either being able to use like Takanuma to bring it back, or using like casting multiple spells to go and get back like Phoenixes and things like that. Deafening Clarion is just a board wipe, deal 3 damage, can give your creatures lifelink, it's on a turn as well. Magic game to deal 3 to the board, and you have an Omnath and a Niv-Mizzet Reborn. You're just going to end up hitting your opponent for 10, you're going to gain 10, you're going to clear their board, and basically any and all offense is stopped. Probably even after the Omnath gets in, you're gaining 4 life just about every turn. But, if just to absolutely slam the door shut on your opponent. Gulligan's Command can act, as like getting rid of some small creatures, forcing your opponent to discard a card, kind of force them to get rid of a card in their hand. If it's not an instant, like on their draw step, to kind of like time walk them. You can pick up Niv-Mizzet, Omnath, Niv-Mizzet Supreme or Reborn, Locus of Creation, another Wandering Mind, Clothis, things like that. You have Unmoored Ego, Extinction Event, just good. Unmoored Ego in a lot of matchups is going to help you win the game, and especially if you're able to cast it twice on a player, pretty good chance that you can put enough pressure on them to win the game after something like that. You have Extinction Event, which is another kind of like conditional wrath, but it ends up exiling everything. So like this against like Rakdos, against like Rakdos and against the Phoenix decks, you're able to name even with this, and you're able to get rid of like some of their biggest threats. You have Sunfall as well, just like another way to kind of clear the board, and you get to make a token behind that you gotta invest a little bit of mana into to get it, but you end up being like a 5/5 or 6/6 for 7 mana and destroy the board is pretty nice. We have Up the Beanstalk, Fable the Mirrorbreaker, Leyline Binding, because we're a 5-color mana base. We're also playing Yorion as well, so we kind of want to be in multiple colors. So Up the Beanstalk, you're going to trigger for a lot of these other spells. course, classically pairing up well with Leyline Binding, because you're going to be able to pay 1 mana to cast this card and draw a card from off the Beanstalk. Fable and Mirrorbreaker, probably the best mid-range card. Like, maybe not, I don't know if ever printed. Like, we probably won't go that far, but it is probably one of the best mid-range cards that you have access to, at this current time in 2024. So that's basically all of our spells. But I talked about in the beginning that Niv-Mizzet Reborn is not like the main piece of this Niv Delight deck. So what is the light part of Niv Delight? Conveniently, it's this card called Bring Delight. Really originally printed in Battle for Zendikar. It's 3 generic, a green and a blue for a sorcery that has Converge. So search your library for a creature, instant, or sorcery card with mana value less than or equal to the number of colors of mana spent to cast this spell. You exile that card, then shuffle, and then you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So Bring to Light allows you to, if you pay all 5 colors of mana, you're going to get access to basically every card that we mentioned in this deck list. You're going to be able to go get Sunfall, Extinction Event. You're able to go and get Fable and Mirrorbreaker up to Beanstalk, really, if you need to. But obviously the most exciting things would be getting a Wrath, getting your Niv-Mizzet Reborn, Supreme, Omnath, anything like that. Just whatever tool that you need for the job. Getting to play, 80 cards. Yorion pairing well with a lot of these creatures that have nice ETB triggers. And, of course, Bring to Light as well, getting to, get you whatever you need kind of in that moment is a pretty sweet addition. It also pairs well with Valki, God of Lies, because thanks to Tibble Cosmic Imposter existing on the backside of Valki, the Bring to Light only cares that you can get a creature instant or sorcery that costs less than the colors of mana spent. So you can go get Valki. It's a card that you can pick up, but then Bring to Light allows you to cast either side of the card. So you can go and get Valki from the Bring to Light, and then you can cast Tibble Cosmic Imposter once you get the card from Bring to Light, giving you essentially a 7 mana Planeswalker for 5 mana that it can be anywhere in your deck, essentially, and mess with your opponent. It can be removal if you need it for a very specific target, and it's exile-based removal as well. And then you're able to play cards exiled with Tibble Cosmic Imposter and spend mana as over mana of any color to cast those spells. So then you have a plus that you can start eating your opponent's library and your library as well. You can even, again, get rid of a creature or artifact, and then you're able to play and cast that creature. Imagine being able to do this against something like a Rakdos Vampires and getting to take their Vein Ripper, and then, with all of your, consistency to be able to hit land drops, you're going to be able to cast their Vein Ripper and really put them in a bad spot. So pretty interesting. The mana base is kind of all over the place because you have a lot of these, Tri-lands and Zeator's Proving Ground, Sparrow's Headquarters, you have Rafine's Tower, Ragran Triome, Ketria Triome, Jetmir's Garden. You get the idea. You have a lot of these cards, and then you have some shock lands. You have Fabled Passage is like a way to double spell or be able to double land drop with an Omnath. So you're able to actually get the mana and then make it even easier to cast a Bring to Light. Of course, ideally, you play this like on turn 4, draw a card, whatever. Play a Fable, then you're able to like fetch like the Swamp out of the deck. You're able to cast a Bring to Light. You're going to get a Niv-Mizzet Reborn and just kind of start the chain of like card advantage and everything, and being able to essentially cast a Bring to Light every turn or getting damn near close to. Sideboard, you're playing a lot of, neat cards. Casualties of War being like the big one. Just because it's been a while since I've seen this card, and it just gives you insane value. You can like up to 5-1 on your opponent, which is insane. Krako's Buzz Crusher, we know, it's like a way that you can get rid of a Lotus Field once it hits the battlefield. Notion Thief, if your opponent's like trying to cantrip and you're able to kind of like stall them out, late game Notion Thief is just going to come in. You're going to end up drawing a bunch of cards off of your opponent's things. Mystical Dispute, just a cheap counterspell. Ashiok is very good against the rest of the graveyard based decks that want to be able to interact with it, especially the Izzet Phoenix deck. Also kind of a card that you'd want against Amalia as well, because it stops their search abilities. Legion's End, I would imagine, kind of doing the same thing in the Amalia matchup, where you're able to just kind of get rid of their thing, and then you're going to get rid of all additional copies, so they're just going to be stuck to like tutoring. And Dovin's Veto is a 2-mana negate that you're going to be able to get off of your Niv-Mizzet Reborn, or be able to jumpstart from your Niv-Mizzet Supreme. I believe Ashiok as well also counts in like these double spells, along with, of course, Notion Thief and Casualty of War. And that is the Niv-Mizzet deck for the Pioneer format. Overall, and I've been saying this kind of like, between friends and that, I think Niv-Mizzet is a deck that is like a good choice. It's a big mid-range deck that, basically you're not going to race the Rakdos Vampires deck. Like, you can try to go under it, but if they just have like one of their quick draws, unless you're able to kind of like bypass the Vein Ripper altogether, it's going to be pretty hard because it's going to win combat a lot of the time. So with this deck, it doesn't try to go down, underneath of it. It tries to go through and over like Rakdos mid-range, while also having a lot of nice tools to kind of combat the rest of the metagame that is pretty quick and is like decent against like Rakdos Vampires. And you're just able to kind of like hose them. Of course, playing 80 cards, like there's a chance that you're going to draw the wrong half of your deck. You're going to draw too many of your creatures and not enough of your actual spells that you want to kind of survive till the early to mid game. And that's just kind of like the price you pay when playing this deck. But when you are winning and you're absolutely getting to do the thing, it is freaking awesome, and it's a lot of fun to play. So I kind of look forward to kind of testing and messing around with this deck because, again, it is a lot of fun, and it's has like a play pattern that I enjoy, and it just doesn't feel as like oppressive as like Rakdos Vampires, like nut draws and everything like that. Really, most of the decks like nut draws and stuff. So that's gonna do it for me in this video. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like on the video. Comment down below if there's another Pioneer deck that you would like to see a deck tech done and me kind of dive into and kind of explain. Whatever else, please be sure to leave it in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe to the channel, ring notification bell so you know when future Modern Pioneer and other longer form videos get posted. And if you're interested, consider becoming a member today to directly support my content and all that fun stuff. So that's it for me. Hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in the next one.